Waving hand hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel where we dive into the exciting world of artificial intelligence, exploring its rich history, incredible future, and the amazing opportunities and challenges it brings. If you are a tech enthusiast, an inquisitive student, or simply interested in artificial intelligence, you have come to the right place. Click the subscribe button and let's explore together how artificial intelligence is shaping our tomorrow today. Let's get started. I don't even know where to begin. This is going to sound weird at first, like it starts with tech debates and ends with something completely different. But please bear with me. I need to get this off my chest. So, I, 35M, have been married to my wife, Rachel, 32F, for almost 6 years. We met in the usual millennial way, some now-defunct dating app, and we clicked fast. She was sharp, charming, and honestly, too pretty for me. I work in software, mostly back-end systems, and I've always had this cautious optimism about AI. I've followed the field since college. I guess I've been what some people would call an AI realist. I see the potential, but I'm also freaked out by how fast it's moving and how unregulated it is. Rachel, at least at first, seemed totally on the same page. When we were dating, we used to talk late into the night about the singularity, ethics, automation, the usual rabbit holes. She used to make fun of people who thought AI was just a passing tech fad. That was one of the first things that made me think, okay, she gets me. But about 6 months ago, that all started changing. Or I thought it was changing. I'd mentioned something I read, like OpenAI's new models, or how some artists were protesting AI-generated images, and she'd just shrug. Or worse, she'd roll her eyes. God, not this again, she said one night, while we were brushing our teeth. You sound like one of those doomsday Reddit dudes who think ChatGPT is going to steal their wives. I remember laughing it off, but something about the tone stuck with me. It wasn't teasing. It felt dismissive, and she'd never been that way before. I tried talking to her about it a few days later. Told her it just seemed like her opinions had completely flipped. She said I was overanalyzing, that I was bored, and trying to pick a fight. You want to be scared of the future, fine. But don't drag me into your tech cult, she snapped. That line, tech cult, it hit me weird. Like, who even talks like that? I know it sounds petty to start here, but trust me, this wasn't just a debate about AI. It was the first crack. I didn't know it then, but it was the first red flag in a whole avalanche of betrayal. And no, I wasn't paranoid. A couple weeks after that weird toothbrush argument, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I overheard Rachel listening to a podcast in the living room. Nothing unusual there. She's always got something playing in the background. But this one caught my ear because it was about AI and its impact on relationships. Right up my alley, right? Except, the woman speaking sounded exactly like Rachel. Same voice, same sarcastic tone. She was laughing about how she tells her nerdy husband that she hates AI just to mess with him. I literally froze, holding the coffee pot mid-pour. I walked into the living room and asked her what she was listening to. She scrambled to pause it and said, "Oh, just some random relationship show. The host has my voice, right?" So creepy. My stomach dropped. That wasn't just like her voice. That was her. I know her cadence. I know the way she snorts when she laughs too hard. I've heard it in bed, in traffic, in the middle of fights. There was no way it wasn't her. So I asked her again. Point blank. She stuck to the lie. I swear to God, babe. It's not me. You're being so weird lately. I didn't push it. Maybe I should have. But the gaslighting was strong. And I wanted to believe her. I wanted it to be coincidence, a misheard thing. A haha. Isn't this crazy story we could joke about later? But I didn't let it go. That night, after she went to bed early, claiming a migraine, I went back and found the podcast. Took some digging through her browsing history. I know, and there it was, a podcast she'd hosted under a fake name. Turns out she'd been doing episodes for months. About marriage. About dealing with men in tech. About how to stay in control when your husband starts quoting Elon Musk in bed. She was mocking me. Openly. Publicly. And she lied straight to my face about it. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat on the couch, listening to every damn episode, while she slept a few feet away from me like nothing was wrong. What's wild is, the podcast had followers. Comments. People who thought she was hilarious. People asking for more stories about me. I felt like a character in someone else's show, someone else's joke. I wish that was the worst of it. But no, that was just the tip of the iceberg. The next day, I did something I rarely do. I told my best friend, Matt. We've been friends since college. We've seen each other through breakups, layoffs, even a failed crypto startup. I called him on my lunch break, told him everything, the podcast, the fake name, the lies. I was still trying to stay calm, still trying to rationalize it somehow. And you know what he said? Maybe she's just venting, man. People do weird stuff online. Hell, my wife posts cryptic stuff on her Finsta all the time. Venting? Venting? This wasn't a one-off TikTok about being annoyed with me for leaving dishes in the sink. She had entire segments devoted to trashing me. Detailed stories about our private conversations. She reenacted an argument we had about AGI like it was a sketch comedy bit. And not just that. She exaggerated everything. Made me sound like some obsessive, paranoid loser who thinks AI is going to become his mistress. I tried to explain that to Matt, but he wasn't hearing it. She's probably just bored, dude. You work long hours. You talk about machine learning like it's a religion. She probably feels left out. That one hit deep. Because he wasn't entirely wrong. I do work a lot. I've been pushing hard at this startup. And yeah, I talk about AI a lot. Because I care. Because the world is changing so damn fast and most people are sleepwalking through it. But Rachel wasn't just feeling left out. She was performing behind my back, laughing with strangers, collecting followers from my humiliation. Still, I didn't confront her yet. I kept thinking, if I accuse her, it'll turn into a fight. She'll twist it. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe Matt's right. Maybe she just needed an outlet. But deep down, I already knew the truth. I started noticing other things. Passwords changed. She'd turn her phone over when I walked into the room. And she started staying out late book clubs, she said. Or AI ethics meetup, she told me once, dead serious. I thought that was irony. Now I think it was just more lying. That's when I really started digging. And what I found next didn't just hurt. It shattered something inside me. So yeah, AI ethics meetup. That's what she told me when she came home late on a Thursday night, around 11:45 p.m. I was sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV, but I was actually watching the door. She walked in like nothing was weird. No apology. No explanation for why she'd been gone nearly 6 hours. I asked her how the meetup went. Oh, amazing, she said, with that plastic smile. We talked about neural net bias and how society's ignoring the human side of automation, which sounds smart. But I asked her one simple follow-up. Who hosted it? She blinked. Some professor guy. From MIT or, I think Berkeley. Berkeley. We live in Pittsburgh. That's when I stopped pretending. I excused myself, went to my office, and pulled up her laptop. I know, invasion of privacy. Spare me. At this point, I knew something was going on. My gut was screaming. She forgot to log out of her email. And there it was, buried in her trash folder, a string of emails with someone named Lucas W. Subject line, tonight's plan Blackheart. I opened it. Dinner reservations. An Uber receipt. Screenshots of a TikTok video where she called herself AI Widow, a not-so-subtle jab at me. And worst of all, a selfie of them together, sitting in some rooftop bar, drinks in hand, her head tilted onto his shoulder like they'd done it 100 times. I don't even know how long I sat there staring. 5 minutes? 40? An hour? It wasn't just cheating. It was coordinated betrayal. She'd crafted this whole alternate version of herself, the clever, sarcastic wife who mocks her AI-obsessed husband, and shared it with strangers and this Lucas guy like it was a brand. And the kicker? Lucas wasn't just some random guy. I recognized him. He was the keynote speaker from a tech ethics conference I took her to last year. She told me he was annoying and smug. Guess not so annoying, huh? I closed the laptop, went back into the living room. She was scrolling through Instagram like it was just another night. You see Lucas lately? I asked. Her eyes didn't even flicker. Who? And right then, I swear to you, I saw something in her face I can't unsee. It wasn't guilt. It was arrogance. Like she knew I knew, and she dared me to do something. That was the moment I realized. She didn't think I'd leave. Not ever. After that night, the Lucas reveal, the lies, the stone-cold arrogance, I did what every part of my gut told me not to do. I played dumb. I smiled. I brought her coffee the next morning. I kissed her cheek. I even asked if she wanted to watch one of those AI documentaries you used to like. She laughed. God, you're such a nerd. She thought she was winning. That's what gave me space to operate. Because I knew I couldn't just confront her and expect the truth. She'd lie. Gaslight me again. and I wasn't about to let her twist the story into me being the crazy one. I needed proof. Real, timestamped, can't deny it proof. So I started downloading every email thread, screenshots of the podcast hosting dashboard with her name and IP, the selfies, the Uber receipts, the Instagram DMs she didn't know I had access to. She used the same password for everything. And then I found the Dropbox folder, titled AI Widow Project. It wasn't just a podcast anymore. She was pitching a book, a memoir, about being married to a man who emotionally abandoned her for his machine god. That's a direct quote, by the way. Worse, she was shopping it to publishers. One had even responded with interest. She'd written entire chapters, fake arguments we'd never had, stories about me forbidding her from working, which is insane. I've supported her every time she changed careers, from marketing to freelance writing to whatever it is she claims to do now. She framed me as some AI-obsessed sociopath who didn't know how to love a real person. Meanwhile, she was out with Lucas W., drinking cocktails on rooftops and calling me emotionally unavailable. At this point, I wasn't angry. I was numb. The betrayal had reached this surreal level. Like I wasn't just being cheated on, I was being rewritten, repurposed. Like I was a flawed character in the story of her victimhood. I realized something else, too. I couldn't just walk out. I needed to document everything, protect myself legally, protect my reputation, because she wasn't just burning the marriage. She was building a brand from the ashes. Yeah, you read that right. After all the lies, the cheating, the mockery, and that little passion project where she painted me as a tech-obsessed cult member, she served me the papers. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was in a Zoom meeting with my team, working on a robotics demo for an investor pitch. Doorbell rings. I figure it's Amazon. I tell them to keep going and jog to the front door. And there's a guy in a blazer holding a manila envelope. Are you my full name? I nod. You've been served. Just like that. Hands me the envelope and walks off. I open it right there in the entryway. At first, I honestly thought it was a prank. But nope, official divorce papers. Filed by Rachel, citing emotional neglect and irreconcilable differences. I stood there staring at the documents while my Zoom call was still going. I could hear my team talking through the speaker. And then I saw it, the kicker. She wanted the house, the car, and half of my company stock options. Let me pause here. She doesn't work in tech. She has nothing to do with my company. She's never even been to my office. But apparently, I built it while married, so she feels entitled to it. The next few days were chaos. I stayed at a buddy's place across town while my lawyer and I worked through the paperwork. He couldn't believe what she was asking for. But here's the real twist. She timed it. The podcast, the book pitch, the fake AI meetups, Lucas, all of it, perfectly spaced out over months. She wasn't spiraling. She was strategizing. I was a character in her redemption arc. The cold, distant husband who gets his comeuppance while she reinvents herself as the brave, outspoken ex-wife who escaped the machine. And serving me first? That gave her control of the narrative. People like the first story they hear. I realized then, this wasn't just a divorce. It was AF ******ing campaign. And I had no idea how far she was willing to go. The fallout didn't hit all at once. It came in waves. The first came from my personal circle, texts from old college friends, ex-coworkers, even a cousin I hadn't talked to in 2 years. Hey man, just wanted to check in. Heard something weird about you on TikTok? You good? Some girl was ranting about AI bros and mentioned a Pittsburgh startup guy with dead eyes. Then came the worst of it, a phone call from my mom. Let me paint this picture for you. My mother is 67 years old, lives in upstate New York, and still signs texts with her full name. She doesn't follow podcasts. She barely uses the internet. But someone sent her a clip from Rachel's podcast. In the clip, Rachel's doing this overly theatrical monologue about how I've stopped speaking like a real person and only communicate through data points and forecasts. She literally says, it's like being married to a spreadsheet with a pulse. My mom, bless her, says this. Sweetheart, are you in one of those AI cults? Are you okay? Is someone making you do this? I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was insane. I reassured her, told her I wasn't brainwashed, that I wasn't speaking in binary, that I was still me, even if the internet now thought otherwise. But the damage was real. Rachel's narrative was spreading. People were reposting her content under hashtags like hashtag TechWidow, hashtag Escape Through Algorithm, hashtag AIsLove. There were memes of me. One was a split screen, her on one side looking sad, and a robotic puppet labeled husband.exe on the other side, mumbling, "I love you equals true." At first, I tried to laugh it off, but the more I saw it, the more it ate at me. My reputation wasn't just taking a hit. It was being reconstructed in real time into something I didn't recognize. And the cherry on top? Rachel posted a video, sipping wine, saying, "Some of you have guessed who he is. I'm not here to name names. I'm here to start a conversation about what happens when intimacy gets outsourced to machines." That line, "not here to name names," was such bullshit. Everyone knew who she was talking about. She wanted them to guess. She wanted them to find me. And they did. So at this point, Rachel's podcast is blowing up. She's doing live streams, interviews, even got a feature in a trendy digital mag titled Sleeping Next to Singularity. Meanwhile, I'm in damage control mode, trying to stay focused on my startup, keep my team steady, and reassure investors that I'm not a madman whispering to circuit boards in my spare time. But perception? It's everything in tech. And Rachel was out there shaping it like wet clay. One of our angel investors, let's call her Carla, called me after a few concerned board members shared Rachel's podcast with her. "I just want to make sure you're emotionally stable," she said. "This stuff is intense." Another VC ghosted me entirely after being super responsive for months. Our Series A got pushed. Then came whispers from inside my own team, not directly, but through the grapevine, that I'd checked out, that I was obsessed with synthetic consciousness. No one said it to my face, but they didn't have to. I had spent years building this company, designing autonomous systems for elder care, making a real impact. And overnight, my co-founder sat me down and told me, in the nicest possible way, that maybe I should take a break. I knew what that meant. So I stepped away. Not because I wanted to. Because if I stayed, I'd drag the whole ship down with me. The worst part? Rachel's podcast wasn't just embarrassing me. It was quoting my early blog posts, tearing apart my TEDx talk, mocking things I'd written in good faith about AI and the future of empathy. She made me sound like I wanted to replace people, that I didn't believe in love, that I thought a perfectly engineered companion was better than a flawed human. None of it was true. She weaponized my idealism and turned it into a joke. And when I saw her tweet this, "He wanted a wife who would speak in ones and zeros," I gave him silence instead. I actually felt sick. She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted to erase me. This was the lowest point. I'd moved into a short-term rental across town. Mattress on the floor. Takeout boxes. Cold silence. I was trying to stay off social media, but I slipped one night. Around 2 a.m. I was doom-scrolling when I landed on something I hadn't expected. Rachel's Medium blog. I hadn't even known she had one. It wasn't under her real name, she used a pseudonym. But a Reddit thread had connected the dots. Yeah, the drama made it to Reddit. Probably this sub, honestly. The blog post? My vows were a lie, and I knew it. I clicked. It started off poetic. She quoted something from Rumi, then transitioned into this mess of pseudo-intellectual reflections on theatrical love and how women are taught to perform commitment instead of feeling it. She said she knew the night before the wedding that she was making a mistake, claimed she had already emotionally exited the relationship, but went through with it because she was too afraid to disappoint his mother. My mom. She trashed the vows she read to me. Said she copied lines from a Pinterest board and inserted AI metaphors ironically because he thought in algorithms, so I gave him formulas. And then this line. When I said I'd love him through every season, I meant until my season changed. I sat there for an hour staring at my screen. Not crying. Just hollow. I kept thinking about that day, our wedding. Her in that dress. The look she gave me when we exchanged rings. The way she leaned into my chest during the reception when the music got too loud. I believed it all. Every word. Every gesture. Meanwhile, she was telling the internet she knew it was fake. That she faked me. She had turned our marriage into content. At that moment, I realized it wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just lies. It was theft. She didn't just take years of my life. She stole my memories and reedited them into a performance where I was the oblivious villain. That's when I knew. This wasn't just about leaving her. This was about reclaiming me. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But hear me out. After the blog post, the podcast, the memes, something in me flipped. Not in a vengeful way. More like, I needed to understand, not just what she did, but why she did it, what patterns she followed, what lies she told, and when she told them. Because if I could map it, maybe I could finally stop waking up at 3 a.m. wondering if I was the problem. So I did what I knew how to do. I wrote code, pulled everything she ever posted online, podcasts, blog entries, tweets, even Instagram captions, fed it through a model I'd trained to detect sentiment shifts, contradiction frequency, and even perform rudimentary deception profiling based on syntax anomalies. Took about 3 days. What I got was brutal. There were 84 documented contradictions across her content timeline. She told one audience I was emotionally unavailable, another that I was controlling and obsessive, a third that I was so distant she didn't even notice when I left town for a week. That never happened. She contradicted herself about when we met, how long we dated, and even why she started her podcast. In one version, it was her lifeline during grief. In another, it was a playful project born out of post-breakup freedom. The AI flagged a specific pattern. She mirrored her audience. Every lie wasn't designed for truth, it was tailored for resonance. If the crowd wanted a victim, she became one. If they wanted empowerment, she was a phoenix. If they wanted rage, she handed them pitchforks. My AI even generated a report titled, Narrative Drift versus Authentic Continuity in Public Persona, Subject Rachel_M. God, I stared at that headline for an hour, like I was reading an obituary for the woman I married. But strangely, I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. Rachel wasn't just a liar. She was a storyteller who got high off her own fiction. And I was just a really convincing antagonist in the novel she sold herself to survive. This didn't mean what she did was okay, but it made something shift inside me. I didn't need revenge. I needed distance. After the AI report, something inside me clicked. I couldn't control her story. I couldn't erase her lies. I couldn't even fix the past, but I could control me. So I started small, deleted her podcasts from my playlists, stopped checking social media mentions, unfollowed every Rachel fan account that popped up like weeds. Instead, I focused on the parts of life that felt real. I went back to running, not for fitness, but for peace. The rhythm of footsteps and breath was grounding in a way no screen ever was. I reconnected with old friends, the ones who never asked about Rachel or my AI obsession. They just wanted to know how I was doing. I also started journaling. Not the kind that's about strategy or data, but messy, unfiltered thoughts. Real feelings. The hardest part? Facing loneliness. No more we. No more us. Just me. And honestly, some days sucked. A lot. But I began to see something I hadn't in years, the possibility of hope. The possibility of me without the weight of her narrative. Eventually, I met someone new. Someone who didn't care about my startup or my AI projects. Someone who laughed at my nerd jokes and challenged me to be more than my work. It's not perfect. It's not a fairy tale. But it's real. And that makes all the difference. Looking back, I never expected a tech startup and a messy marriage to mix like this. But here we are. Here's what I learned. People aren't algorithms. You can't predict or control human behavior, no matter how much data you have. My wife's lies prove that. Emotional truth isn't binary. It's messy, contradictory, and sometimes cruel. Trust is fragile and sacred. Once broken, it takes way more than logic or tech to fix. I thought my rational mind could protect me. Nope. It can't shield you from betrayal. Narratives shape reality, but so does silence. Rachel controlled the story because I didn't speak up. But fighting fire with fire only fuels the flames. Sometimes, the strongest move is walking away and building your own quiet truth. Self-care isn't selfish. Taking time to heal and focus on myself wasn't a luxury, it was necessary. Emotional wounds don't heal on code alone. AI can reveal patterns, but it can't replace empathy. Using my AI project to analyze her lies helped me understand the what, but not the why. Human emotions are a puzzle no machine can fully solve. Most of all, I learned to forgive not her, but myself. For trusting too much, for ignoring red flags, for thinking love would be simple. If you're reading this and going through something similar, whether it's betrayal, heartbreak, or a partner who feels like a stranger, here's my advice. You are not alone. Your feelings are valid. And your future isn't written by their story. You'd think after all that drama, people would just want to distance themselves. But surprisingly, some didn't. First, There were strangers on the internet. I started sharing parts of my story anonymously on tech forums and relationship subs. Not to seek pity, but just to vent. What shocked me was how many people replied with Me Too stories. Broken trust, public betrayal, feeling erased. Turns out, I wasn't alone in this chaotic mix of love and tech. Then there were old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. When I finally opened up about what happened, instead of judgment, I got support. Genuine kindness. One friend even sent me a book on emotional intelligence, telling me, "This helped me after my divorce." Small gestures that mattered. And the weirdest one? Rachel's former best friend reached out via DM, someone I barely knew existed. She apologized for how Rachel had twisted things and shared some insider stories that confirmed the pattern I'd discovered with my AI. It didn't fix the past, but it reminded me that even in chaos, there's humanity. Not everyone will be on your side. Some will gaslight, some will gossip, but some will be unexpected allies. Those are the ones worth holding on to. After months of tangled emotions and endless mental replay, I knew I had to cut the cord completely. No more passive-aggressive tweets. No more subtle digs and podcasts. No more waking up to new lies disguised as truths. So I blocked her on everything. Phone, email, social, even the messaging apps we used for work. I archived our old chats and deleted the threads. It was brutal. Felt like ripping a part of myself off, but also strangely liberating. No more notifications pulling me back into her drama. No more wondering if she'd accidentally tag me in some new drama. No more feeling like my entire identity was tethered to someone who had rewritten our story for clicks and followers. The first week? Hollow, lonely, painful. But after that, peace. I could breathe again, think again, plan again. Cutting her out wasn't just about ending a toxic chapter. It was about reclaiming my sanity, my story, and my future. So here I am, sharing this with you all, a guy who once thought AI could solve everything, including his marriage. Spoiler, it can't. Rachel taught me a harsh lesson. Humans are unpredictable, messy, and sometimes painfully deceptive, but also capable of growth, forgiveness, and new beginnings. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my story, it's this. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Protect your peace, even if it means walking away from the person you thought was forever. Technology is a tool, not a cure. It can reveal patterns but can't replace real human connection. Healing takes time, and that's okay. And finally, your story is yours alone. Don't let anyone rewrite it for likes, clicks, or drama. To anyone out there dealing with betrayal, whether in love or friendship, know this: you're stronger than you think. You deserve honesty, respect, and the chance to start over. Thanks for reading my mess. And if you're going through something similar, I'm here to listen. Stay real, stay kind, and keep moving forward.